You could make an argument that Donald Trump did well in last night's primaries and caucus. That would be plural for caucus. That Donald Trump did well because he didn't have any opposition. But keep in mind, he still had two other names on the ballots in these states, Ted Cruz and John Kasich, who have suspended, not withdrawn, but suspended their campaigns. Also, keep in mind that in many of these states, Donald Trump was running where you have heavy Latino populations, New Mexico, California, and unsurprisingly, New Jersey, right? New Jersey has a large Latino population. You should also recognize that not all Latinos are Democrats, some of them are Republicans. So if they perceive Donald Trump to be an angry, bigoted racist, they would have turned out in droves and they would have voted Donald Trump down and gotten him out of the way. But in New Jersey, Trump picked up well over 80% of the vote. And in New Mexico and California, Trump picked up over 70% of the vote. Ted Cruz, still on the ballot in California, the only Latino running in that state as a Republican, because he's on the ballot, even if he's not officially there, Ted Cruz finished third. So you're asking yourself, well, wait a minute. Do these numbers really tell us much of anything about the public's reaction? The media is screaming and yelling, and fellow Republicans, the sky is falling. Donald is going to ruin us. I don't know what we're going to. Oh, mean spirit. Oh, good golly. And yet, Trump's numbers in those states with heavy Latino populations were higher than in states where the Dakotas and Montana, which likely don't have very high, at least in comparison, Latino populations. Now, how does that happen? I happened yesterday to be listening to an out-of-state radio show, and the two men who were talking on the air about this Trump situation are two guys I used to work with. So I called the show and got on the air with them, and I said, guys, think about this. This whole thing with Trump exploded last week, and we've been hearing about it for a good week now. And have you seen much in the way of poll data? Because polling data would tell us if it has actually hurt Donald Trump. And I said, come to think of it, guys, we haven't seen a lot of polling data on this because, well, it's been done, but where is it? Are they suppressing it because it would run counter to the narrative that Donald Trump is now toast because he talked about these things? And I get the impression the public is not swayed. And once again, though, all of the liberal media sitting around, well, yes, but well, let me take another toke off my pipe for a moment. Well, as you all know, I was watching the, Morning Joe over at MSDNC today, just briefly. I've gotten to the point now where I want to throw a brick through the television when I watch too much of it. They had Mike Barnicle on there. He is an admitted plagiarizer. He was running down Donald Trump. And then they had Jonathan Capehart, who's an assistant editor at the Washington Post, and an admitted homosexual, and he was fumbling through a report. And they were, well, this is a cross-section of America over there, right? Plagiarists, liars, and homosexuals. And he was running down through his retinue of what Trump had done and why it was wrong and how it was going to cost him. And again, it hasn't seemed to have hurt him at all. But the media's latest now is, oh, yes, a historic moment last night as Hillary Clinton becomes the first woman ever to be a major party nominee for president. So we're going to get all over again what we got back in 2008. Oh, there's a black man who's the nominee of the Democratic Party. Transformational change. Yep. Transformational change. Yep. Yeah. Oh, isn't it wonderful? Well, what if the black man and the woman aren't the best? Could there be better women to be the first women nominee? This whole notion that we have to vote for somebody because they're left-handed. Oh, we need a left-handed president. Yep. Whoa, transformational change. Wouldn't it be cool to have a left-handed president? How about a fat president or a short president or a double-wide president? How about just somebody who can get the job done? That doesn't seem to matter. And media just keeps, this is going to be the latest now. The first woman ever to be the major party nominee. Isn't that cool? And so you should vote for her because she may be anatomically a woman. And even that may be up for debate. I just don't know that this has any bearing on the overall race. But this is the agenda now. They're going to try to push because the media's job now is to pull her across the finish line, to do whatever they can to paint Donald Trump as being unfit for office, and to tell you that this girl who got 4 people killed in Benghazi, who turned Libya into a cesspool, who deleted 30,000 emails, she's got her old State Department hands now saying it'll be 75 years before they can release all the details on all of this. Does anybody really believe this baloney? Yet the media is not going to even hammer away at that. It's all going to be, Donald Trump a misogynist, and he says bad things about people from Mexico and dope dealers and murderers and rapists. Oh, good heavens, oh. And yet the American people out there who are wondering where they're going to be getting their next meal, many of them, you think this is going to really matter to them in the long run? There's a story this morning from Peter Morisi. Call it an opinion column, if you will. He's writing in the Washington Times. Peter Morisi is one of America's best-known economists, which likely means not well-known at all, but at least as an economist, among economists, he's known as among the best. He has a column where he points out Trump could do very well just simply because of economic issues. Now, last Thursday, when we got an announcement that unemployment was down to 4.7%, the Washington Post, that's Pravda on the Potomac, that's the Obama newspaper, the Democrat mouthpiece in Washington, did a front page story saying the economy is booming because unemployment is down to 4.7%. Not to mention, of course, that it's down to 4.7% because a lot of people, that counts the number of people who are actually filing for unemployment benefits, which don't last forever. 26 weeks? And then you've got to go live under a bridge somewhere and forage for acorns to survive. And then you're not counted while you're living out there communing with nature. The following day, we learned that we had only 38,000 jobs created during the previous month, which, as I said, is just about pre-industrial America levels. I mean, it's awful. It's dreadful. And the Pravda on the Potomac buried that on page A9. So they're doing what they can to try to cover for the Democrats as best they can. But no matter how many times a Democrat tells you, or one of its minions in media tells you things are coming up roses, and you're eating the roses because you have nothing else left in your refrigerator, I don't think it's going to play come Election Day. 8:13. Bill Colley with you on Top Story on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. 736-0300 will put you through to our show. We have a caller with us. You're on the air. You're up next.
Good morning, Bill. I think it's amazing to me that when it comes time to find the truth on a Democrat, it takes 75 years to find records. But if they want to persecute a Republican, it'll happen tomorrow. It's just amazing how that happens, and we let it happen.
All I can tell you is Hillary Clinton's deeds. They're not only Nixonian, they make Nixon look like a piker, and yet she's going to get a free pass, and they're going to try to get her elected as president. It's an abomination against the American people.
Well, you ain't kidding, and the fact that she was even involved in the Nixon thing, maybe it's where she learned all these tricks.
Well put. Thank you much. I want to point out that Republicans who've been hammering Donald Trump, including the very handsome Mitch McConnell, and, of course, Eddie Munster over in the House of Representatives. That would be your good friend Paul Ryan. Ryan has issued something called, they're not calling it like Contract with America like Newt Gingrich did back in the 90s, but he has issued a lengthy position paper on how the Republicans can better address the needs of poor and working class Americans. Now, let me ask you a question here. Mitt Romney had a 59-point plan in 2012. Did you read it? Now, I've printed out Paul Ryan's plan, but I haven't had time to read it. And this is what I do for a living. I've not yet had time to read it. Do they really believe that people are going to say, Paul Ryan's, phone book-sized plan, I think that says it all. Therefore, Paul Ryan, I must back him and turn on Donald Trump. Well, again, nobody's going to read the dang thing. People don't vote for 59-point plans. They vote whoever they think is the... And in this case, they'll vote for someone they dislike. And the media is going to try to promote the fact that you dislike Trump, but Hillary Clinton's never going to be warm and fuzzy. On Hannity's program last night, Trump was responding to some of those Republican critics, many of whom probably are even more disliked than he is.
They just can't come back. They can't get over it. So they have to get over it, ideally. As to whether or not they endorse me, it's okay if they don't, but they have to get over it. They shouldn't be so angry for so long.
As you move forward in this campaign cycle, I would assume that Hillary Clinton, that everything has to be fair game. What if do you see a scenario where it's possible, because there's this whole FBI primary, if you will, and James Comey, if he makes a criminal referral, now she's won the nomination. Does that change the game? Do you suspect the Democrats would want to take that nomination away from her? And would that concern you?
Well, even Bernie Sanders yesterday was referring to the criminal problem she has with the FBI. And I will tell you that a lot of people who have done far less wrong than what she's done are right now destroyed, and destroyed. Their whole life is destroyed. And whether it's General Petraeus or others, and they did a fraction of what she did. So it's going to be very interesting to see. She's being protected. Otherwise, they wouldn't have let it go on this long. But she has really done things that were wrong and illegal.
She has. But she's not going to be indicted. You know, the depth of depravity involved in Hillary Clinton's actions is it's just going to be ignored. The only thing I can compare it to is what we saw near the end of the Roman Empire. And people knew that corruption was surrounding them and that things were falling to pieces, but nothing would happen, that no one was held accountable. And this is what's going on in this situation. One of her allies, her staunchest allies, is Chris Matthews over at MSDNC. Now, Matthews' wife was endorsed by Hillary Clinton. Matthews' wife was running in a primary for Congress in Maryland and got just rolled over. I mean, so it's so far a bad year for the Matthews family. Matthews was on the air yesterday with one of Bernie Sanders' minions. Bernie has minions too. And he was trying to say, what is Bernie going to release his tax records? Because obviously Bernie must be dishonest if he isn't. Listen to what this fellow says to Matthews.
I don't, Chris, but I think we should follow the example perhaps of yourself when your wife was running for the Congress in Maryland recently. You guys didn't release any tax returns. So I don't really think you're wanting to be in a position of talking about tax returns.
I don't even know if we did release tax returns, did we?
No, I don't believe you did.
I had nothing to do with the campaign, so what I will check. I'd be glad to check.
Please do.
Michael, but, that was certainly strange because I wasn't involved in that campaign, and you know it at all, Jeffrey, at all.
This is hardball, Chris.
Yes, but I wasn't involved. I'm just like, I'm not even Jane Sanders here. Anyway, thank you, Michael Schiff, for that. I will give it some thought, but I don't have any answer to it now because I wasn't involved. Anyway, thank you, Michael Schiff. Thank you, Andrew Mitchell and Susan Page. And thank you, Jeff. Well, no, thank you, Jeff Weaver. Anyway, coming up, the fight for the unity.
I wasn't involved. No, she's only my wife. I wasn't involved. Heck, on the night the actual primary took place, he didn't show up for work. He took the night off to be with his wife so they could celebrate what they thought would be victory, and they lost. But no, I wasn't involved. No. I'm above all of this because I work in the news media. See, I'm immune. I don't have to follow the rules because I'm working here at MSDNC. Don't you understand? And I've been looping the president and Mrs. Clinton for years, and so I can get away with all of this too. Just like they can get away with all of it. 20 minutes after 8 o'clock. Bill Colley with you on Top Story on News Radio 1310, KLIX News. Doesn't this make you confident that what we need to know in this country, that we're being informed by people like Chris Matthews? Did you know that his brother was convicted? His brother was a county commissioner somewhere in the Philadelphia, Pennsylvania area, and a few years ago was convicted on a corruption charge. He only got sentenced to probation, so he didn't have to go off to the the big house. But it should tell you a little bit about the Matthews family and their values. We've got more on the way. Dr. Jonathan Tripp scheduled to join us in 15 minutes. Guess what? We're talking about fungi today. Kind of dovetails well with Democrat primaries. I mentioned Dr. Tripp coming up in a few minutes. Also, I expect a guest from the Twin Falls City Council in just a few minutes, too, as well, just after the 9 o'clock news. It's 8:24. Bill Colley with you. 71 this morning on Top Story on News Radio 1310, KLIX and newsradio1310.com. I also wanted to share with you that if you're not listening to this program this morning, you're probably not going to be as informed as you should be to get through your daily life. And if you're having trouble listening to it, you need to get in touch with Dr. Christine Pickup at Mount Harrison Audiology in Rupert, the only locally owned independent hearing healthcare practice in southern Idaho. And she reminds you that your hearing health and your brain health are very much connected. At Mount Harrison Audiology, she's been studying the research on cognitive health and hearing. The most recent findings prove that when hearing loss is addressed with hearing aids, the effects of cognitive decline are greatly diminished. Hearing is critical for communication, for connection to others, and for overall well-being. Now would be the time to improve your hearing. You can call Mount Harrison Audiology for an appointment. The number is 208-312-0957. Bill Colley with you this lovely, lovely morning across the Magic Valley, and been talking a little bit about last night's results in primaries, and nothing really to say in the way of any shockers or any huge change, other than the fact that it doesn't seem Donald Trump has been hurt in any way by his mouth, which, of course, media has said he would be, and some of his fellow Republicans said he would be. Still, it has not happened. And then, of course, as I was saying in the last segment of the program, media is now trying to promote Hillary Clinton as a victor for women because, oh, isn't it wonderful? Now we've got the first woman ever running on a major party ticket. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Vote for her because she's a woman. Yeah, yeah. Hillary addressing some of her supporters last night, in fact, and then she went on to call Donald Trump a racist. And then she also suggests that Bernie Sanders, at this point, her opponent in the primaries, who was never a Democrat but a socialist all along, that he should be hanging it up. So there you have it. Hillary Clinton giving her remarks last night in her victory tour. 826, Bill Colley with you on Top Story on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. You're up next. You're on air.
Yeah, good morning, Bill. Love the little sound effects there. They're great. You know, the thing that I think will happen is Hillary's going to pick Bernie to be her running mate or somebody very close to like him. And I think that's where the people need to look at it and say, the devil will sleep with the devil. She will do anything she can to get elected. I think the American people, so many millions of us, showed up this year to vote for Trump because we're sick and tired of the BS. We're sick and tired of the lies. Now, that comes from Republicans, too. I'm sick and tired of the whole government, the way they're treating us. They're treating us like we're idiots. And now they're saying, well, you can't vote for him because she's a woman. And if you don't vote for a woman, that means you don't like women. If you vote for him, you don't like Mexicans. I mean, this is where we've come. People just need to pull up their big boy panties and their big girl panties and look themselves in the eye and say, what's best for my country?
Right.
Not our country. What's best for my country? This is my country. I own this country. This country is mine, and I want it taken care of. And right now, the buffoons we have in Washington, the buffoons we have back there are not taking care of my country that I put in their hands. And that's what the people need to look at. These idiots, these stupid morons will say, well, we got to vote for her because she's a woman. Look at the Supreme Court, people. We are two justices away from not having our country anymore the way we like it.
Well said. And that two justices or even a justice away from losing your Second Amendment, where they will reinterpret it and say it as they're only speaking of the National Guard. That's the next move. 28 minutes after 8 o'clock. Bill Colley with you on Top Story. You were wondering, too, if Bernie Sanders is smoking crack. He still talks as if he has a shot.
I am pretty good in arithmetic, and I know that the fight in front of us is a very, very steep fight. But we will continue to fight for every vote and every delegate we can get.
That's Bernie speaking last night, and as I say, you wonder exactly how good the drugs are at one of his rallies. Got about a minute left before the break. You've got a very short window here. Go ahead.
Yes. One guy is right, about this country being his country, our country, not their country. These people got to understand they're not officials. They are public servants, which is a fancy way of saying paid slave. You have a master who's getting really tired of this.
Yeah, and the master, unfortunately, is still perhaps can bite more than the dog can. Thank you very much for the call, sir. We have a short break coming up, and then Dr. Jonathan Tripp will join us. We're talking, I believe, fungi this morning, right here on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. We've also got 70 on our way into the low to mid-90s today before it's all said and done. Enjoy the weather if you can.